There we go. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Good to be back. My name is Dean, and it is raining in the beautiful city we call Toronto. Busy day today. We've got a comedian from England named Will Sebag-Montefiore. He's going to join us coming up in a few minutes to talk about the difference in politics between Canada and England. This is where he's at.
That'll be interesting.
Right? Yeah. Let's see. Like, is everybody crazy on that side of the water too? He's fucking funny too. This guy is absolutely brilliant. And he does skits. You know what he is? He's like the British brittle star. But he's also quirky and took a real run at Andrew Tate back when Andrew Tate was in trouble now he is in big trouble. And we'll talk a little bit about Andrew Tate again today. He got charged with all of it, rape, human trafficking, the whole thing. He's exactly what we thought he was. Anyway, so he'll be along in a couple minutes. With him.
Yeah. I saw him where is he now?
Romania, I think.
He's in Romania or Turkey.
Is he in Turkey? Did he get picked up in Turkey?
I
don't quote.
I just saw him in a country, and he had a look on his face like maybe I'm in the wrong place to be a criminal.
Yeah, he got charged with human trafficking. He got charged with all of it, like all the other stuff that happened. Where they're like, maybe we might charge him. No, he's literally got charged with it. So they're like, yeah, we got a ton of proof, ton of evidence. So anyway, Will took a run at him, which was a lot of fun. We'll talk about people that wipe out today. That'll be fun too. We'll talk about Bill C-18. Have you been following this shit? Have you been following what the Canadian government is trying to do to free speech in Canada? Have you been following this?
Well, it's funny because I think a lot of people have this perception of what Bill C-18 is, and they're never going to look underneath the hood. So it's almost pointless to have this conversation, right? You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to have it, and we'll help, try to explain what Bill C-18 is, but you bring up a fucking valid point. And that valid point is that when people hear words like C-18, they're like, nerdy math, some kind of policy, not interested. But this is not good. What the government is trying to do to people in this country.
The way the government's painting it,
of course,
people go, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. They should have to pay. So it seems like an attempt at trying to get big corporations to pay their fair share. But what it is essentially it's our government trying to protect us from the internet. And I will tell you this, I'm in radio. And not all businesses, not all organizations are, what's the best way of putting it? They're not all interfered by the government like radio is. And I just got to tell you, when somebody from the government says we need to control that, it's going to be a bad idea. And it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. And inevitably, it's going to destroy.
Well,
I shouldn't talk in hyperboles, but
like when hyperboles, hypotheticals. And let's just recap. So this is one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit today. Bill C-18 is a bill. The government has rammed through it, received royal assent yesterday. And the bill is about media. And the bill is about getting big tech, Google, Meta, which was Facebook, to pay mainstream media across this country, for
the use of their news.
Hundreds of millions of dollars to allow those mainstream medias across this country to post their articles, their news articles on Meta, Facebook, all the streaming services, that kind of stuff, like a social media company. So effectively what Canada's done is they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. But everybody's got to pay these news people hundreds of millions of dollars a year, all the traditional media assets, all the traditional media outlets, because you shouldn't be allowed to use their news on your platform. Meanwhile, those fucking news outlets developed a plan, monetize that plan, and use those outlets for free in a lot of cases to build their profiles, right? So,
but also, Google isn't sharing this. Meta isn't. Listen, I'm not defending these companies. But in this situation, I would be siding with them. If I see a story that
siding with Google and Meta and Twitter and all the tech companies, or siding with media outlets who are crying poor?
I'm not siding with the media outlets that are crying poor.
Thank fucking God.
Okay. What I'm siding with is, And again, it sounds strange, but the problem I have with it is Google, Twitter, Facebook, they don't actively go out and steal these companies' work. It's posted by their fucking users.
There you go.
The users post it.
The organizations post it. Like in CTV's case, CTV is like, we're going to post that on Facebook. We're going to use Facebook. We're going to drive audience. We're going to tag into the audience that exists on Facebook. And now they're like, well, we can't afford to put those up anymore without you paying us $100 million a year.
Yeah. What Google's going to do is, what Facebook is going to do is they're just going to lock down all that content.
Interesting that you point that out, Locke.
What does that do?
Well, I'll explain it.
It does nothing.
Let me show you.
That just makes the fake shit even more palatable.
Right. And yeah, totally.
Like, it's just because the stuff that they don't attach their names to, the news outlets, the traditional forms of media, that stuff's just going to run rampant.
Yeah, it is. Let me kind of break this down for you. What is C18? Let's read it together. This is a lot of fun. Changes. This is from Meta. They just put this out today. Suck on this, Canadian government. Changes to news availability on our platforms in Canada. Now that C18 has received royal assent, updated today, June 22nd. Today, we're confirming the news availability will be ended on Facebook and Instagram for all users in Canada prior to the Online News Act Bill C18 taking effect. So Facebook, Meta, is now blocking news to Canada. They've now destroyed that functionality. They've got an algorithm that says, hey, you want to share news on Facebook in Canada if you're a Canadian Facebook account? Fuck you, not doing it. They then say we
sure we're quick to do this. Jimmy's had his account hacked for over a week now, and they haven't done a thing.
We have repeatedly shared that in order to comply with C18 passed today in Parliament, content from news outlets, including news publishers and broadcasters, will no longer be available to people accessing our platforms in Canada. I fucking love this, and I'll explain it in a second. Earlier this month, Meta announced that we're conducting product tests to help us build an effective product solution to end news availability as a result of C18. These tests are ongoing and currently impact a small percentage of users in Canada. The changes affecting news content will not otherwise impact Meta's products and services in Canada, wanting to assure the millions of Canadians on our platform they will always be able to share and connect with friends and family, grow their businesses, support their local communities. Whatever. Fuck Mark Zuckerberg, too. Anyway, he says, we will continue to combat misinformation, have built the largest global fact-checking network. That is true, even though they still allow a ton of it on there. Of any platform partnering with more than 90 independent fact-check news organizations in 60 languages globally. Fact-checking will continue. That remains available in Canada. And there you have it. Facebook and Google released basically the exact same thing, saying, hey, you know what? We're done with news in Canada. There's no way we're going to get hijacked by the Canadian government. There's no way the Canadian government's going to force us to pay people hundreds of millions of dollars to use our services, because it's supposed to work the fucking other way around. Now, here's the thing. Hang on. Now, when the Canadian government, because I know this is going to be a thing, because MP Chris Biddle came after me and he came after Michael Geist, who's been blowing this horn for a long fucking time. And as have we. And we stopped giving a shit about this because, as you pointed out, anytime someone says C18,
no one cares.
No one looks under the hood. No one gives a shit. They just fucking phase right out.
And it's being painted as we're going after the big guys. We're going to get those.
That's not what they're doing.
Googles.
Let me explain to you what they're doing. Okay, in no uncertain terms, and this better be a clip, rookie, because this is a fucking great explanation. Bill C-18 exists for one reason and one reason only. The Canadian government does not want to fund failing media, and Canada is fucking chock full of it. Every single news outlet, media outlet in this country is begging for relief because they have fucked themselves, because they fucked us. So they don't get any relief from the government anymore. They don't want to keep pumping money into mainstream media. So what are they doing? Their solution is, no problem. We'll just legislate no news in, no news out, and Canada first, and we'll force Facebook, and we'll force Twitter and Instagram and any one of those big tech companies, including Google, to pay you instead of us paying you. So this is just a bribe. This is a bribe that they're trying to incur on behalf of Canadians, and they're trying to put it like, oh, this is just about Canadian content. It has never been about Canadian content. Never once.
It's about Canadian. It's about the money.
This is about the money and making sure that they get big tech.
Always about the money.
To pay the subsidies to these failing organizations that are fucking fully corrupt in this country. That is what Bill C-18 is. Anyway, there you go. Congratulations. I've explained it in less than 2 minutes. And that's all you need to know.
Usually I'm the one with the hot takes.
Yeah, I know. You're like a big hot take guy, but I'm a hot take guy today because I'm fucking fired up about Bill C-18. And here's the other thing, and I just wanted to point this out. I'm proud of Facebook. I hate Facebook. I think Mark Zuckerberg's the goddamn devil. But if I'm Mark Zuckerberg, let's just take this out of who has what and who's the richest and who has the most, just for a second. This is business. This is business. In business, the grocery store doesn't pay you to take their groceries. Okay? You pay them. You pay in business.
That's a half decent analogy.
You don't pay a movie. You pay a movie theater to go watch a movie at the movie theater, to use their services, to see a movie that you wouldn't normally get. You pay for that. They don't pay you to come. That's not how fucking business works. And it's not how this works. Organizations that use social media and platforms like this have to pay for the privilege because those organizations have done a very good job of creating the communities that they own. And they own those communities. And it's in the fucking fine print. It's in the terms of service. And as much as everybody hates big tech and social media, as much as everybody can't stand it,
of course,
they're
you're supposed
incredibly fucking successful. So successful that they've sucked all the air out of it. And now media in Canada is screwed. Media in the United States isn't screwed. Media across the world is not screwed. Somehow just in Canada it's screwed. So what are they doing? They're saying, you know what? You guys pay these guys. We're tired of paying these losers because they are losers. And what did Bell do today? Great explanation. Bell not only fired 1,300 people and 6% of their workforce because they cried poor last week. You know what they did today? This is fascinating. They are petitioning, as is Rogers, petitioning the CRTC, petitioning the government to get out of the agreement they had with their license to do local news. So they're trying to get out of the licensing portion, which gives them their license to operate, so they never have to do any news again. I love it. I love it. I love what Meta's doing. I love what fucking Bell has to do. These are just consequences of being shitty at your job if you are mainstream media in this country. And these are the consequences of allowing a government to do whatever the fuck it wants and you not actually paying attention, everybody. That's what this is. Sorry to interrupt, Locke. Go ahead.
No. I was interrupting you.
That is true.
A couple of things. One, I want to say this out loud just to protect myself and this fine network that you've started up here, Crier Media. Are you sure Bell and Rogers is doing that?
100%.
Okay, all right.
Not only did I read it, I read a release from Bell saying that's what they were doing. So yes,
that's what they're doing. Yeah. Okay, so I want to point out the hypocrisy of them asking for money because they feel like big tech is stealing all their content and they can't afford to be doing the content that they do anymore. So I'd like to point that out, right? And then going to the government and saying we can't do news anymore, right? When the entire I don't want to.
When their license was predicated on doing news, when that was what the job description was. Yeah.
The hypocrisy is just
dude, that's like you getting hired to do a morning show and you walking in and saying halfway through your time doing a morning show, I don't really feel like reporting on anything interesting. That's not, and they're like, well, it's what we paid you for. That's what we signed you to the contract for. You're like, I'm not doing that either. So fuck you.
The other thing that drives me crazy about this is that we already have the playbook for how Facebook and other companies that were basically approached by a government to pay them for news and content on their sites. We already have the playbook. It happened in Australia and it didn't go well because what Facebook started to do, I don't know about Google and the other companies, but I know specifically about Facebook is they just shut down all news. And then somebody after a while went, this might not be a good idea, right? So then there was all of a sudden, there was this immediate pushback to get news back on Facebook. Because the thing about that content is it brings people into your organization, right? So, I mean, and I think what Facebook did in Australia was they shut the door on everybody in Canada. If you were at all a broadcast, like if you were broadcasting at all, they just went, you're not getting on. Like your stuff is not getting on. We're blocking everything. So that might mean, like, if I put something from the morning show, right, it might get blocked.
Yeah.
So this is not good.
Yeah.
This is just, it's stupid.
Well, and here's the thing.
It's our government jumping in, thinking that they're protecting us, and not looking at the unintended consequences of it. And they're going to screw everybody.
Well, but they don't care. Like, here's the beautiful part of that, and you bring that up. Trudeau.
People will care.
Justin Trudeau is a pussy. Like, his government is the most protective, preventative government, and I know that they've been dealing with assholes for 3 years. I get it. But I mean, the nanny state that this guy thinks that we're supposed to be involved in, the nanny state that he wants to run.
It's not just Trudeau.
Well, I know it's not.
It's seeing a lot.
I know,
in
but
politics.
dude, this is his bill. This is his stuff.
Yeah.
This is his government not having the sack, not having the scrotum to go after people legally because they're afraid that they're going to look like they're prosecuting people politically. That's what this is. He is so deathly afraid of serving up Pierre Poilievre or serving up a lawsuit to Rebel News to look like he's shutting down free speech, when that's what he should do. That is what this government should have done. That is what we as citizens of this country should have done. That is the only recourse, is to attack them legally for misappropriating, gaslighting, and lying. Instead, what he's doing is he's like, now, you know what we're going to do? We're going to mint a whole bunch of new MSM. We're going to give them a bunch of money so we don't have to pay for it. And we're going to block and geofence content coming into this country because, I'm such a huge pussy. I can't do anything other than that. That's what he's doing. And it makes me laugh.
The one unfortunate thing about it is I kind of agree with the sentiment that we may have, like, we have a big tech issue, right? Like, I think there should be, they should explore other avenues outside of this from a content perspective to try to make them. These companies make billions and billions of dollars on the backs of Canadians without any tax, right? And I think what ends up happening a lot of times is it's the easy thing to do is to rile up the public about that. And that's kind of the way everybody views this when they hear bits and pieces of it. Yeah, damn straight. I think Google should pay their fair share, right? Damn straight. Mark Zuckerberg's a dick. He's a billionaire dick. We should make him pay more. But that's not what they're doing.
That's not what this is about. They just want it to be about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, they want everybody to think that way. But I think what's going to end up happening is when they start blocking all the content, like all content, then the companies are going to go, hold on, what are you doing? Yeah, I need that platform to promote my radio, my TV, my web page. And I think what's going to end up happening is if they don't make a change here, they're going to continue to start shutting the door on all of these traditional media outlets in Canada, Facebook, Google, and it's going to screw a lot of people because we might get thrown into the mix with that as well.
We will.
Like Crier.
We will. It doesn't matter. Like, Facebook will just wipe out news across the board, and and if it starts here, it's going to go other places, which is why I'm really excited to introduce our next guest. As we're talking about,
why am I still on solo? By the way,
it's been like people looking at your
very uncomfortable
because
time.
Your dog was showing his crotch again, and I like that in the shot.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
big fan of dog crotch in all of your shots. It's like not a podcast unless we get your dog's nuts in there, dude. That's the whole thing. But please welcome to the program, fellow Brit. Came across him on Twitter, and very, very funny guy. Think of him like the brittle star of England, but he also gets into the politics and the minutiae and the craziness. And he came to my eye when he made fun of Andrew Tate ordering a box of pizza, and he got caught in Romania. It's big news. Please welcome Will Sebag-Montefiore, ladies and gentlemen. Will, good to see you, sir.
Thanks so much for having me. This is the first time I've been introduced after a dog crotch, and I'm delighted by it. I'm very happy.
Well, you missed it, Will, because Lachlan's dog Kingston is in the background of every single podcast.
I saw it. I'm aware.
much.
There's
Did
a
you
lot
see
of
it?
crotch.
Did you see
Yeah.
Did you see the dog hammer? Did you
I
see
stopped listening to Facebook and looking at this thing about Facebook and saw a dog crotch. It was fantastic. It's why I came.
Yeah, that's why you came. Why you came?
Because an exhibitionist.
Yeah, he is. The dog's a
Kingston.
bit of an exhibition. Where are you? Where
Like his old
are you
man.
coming to us from today? Because you were in Spain. You've been all over the place. Where
Oh
are you
yeah, I'm a
broadcasting
bit of a
from?
jet setter.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm in London where I live, and I've put up like a fancy background because of the shame that I feel about my current my current bedroom. So that's all hidden. I'm a messy boy. But yeah, I do comedy all over the shop. So I was recently on a cruise ship doing sketch comedy, the home of home of sketch comedy. It's just the sea in the Caribbean, I believe.
Is that what you're doing? So were you on a cruise ship recently? Did you?
Yeah.
Doing skits, or were you doing like a comedy show? Was it a one-man thing? Were you making fun of Andrew Tate? What were you doing?
No, it's funny. I have a sketch comedy group, and our vibe is very like relaxed, sort of lovely, gentle, middle-class English comedy. It's lovely. And then my stuff on Twitter is definitely has more anger behind it. So yeah. I sort of get that outlet there, you know.
It's Just These Please Comedy. Is that your group?
Yeah, very quick. Also, like much better than a lot of people. Like my mum's neighbor calls us "Will that be all, sir?" And I was like, I sort of see where you're coming from. I sort of get it, but no, not quite.
Yeah, you can follow your comedy group, Just These Please Comedy, at just These Please. You can also follow Will at WSEBAG. And dude, great to have you. You're in England.
Thanks
Do you
for having
guys
me.
have? And I want to ask you this because you do a lot of political stuff.
Please, yeah.
And we'll get to
very, very clever. I'm very well versed. I definitely don't have enough knowledge just to make punchlines for my own videos. This is going to be a great interview.
Yeah, don't worry, you will.
Yeah.
Dude, if you don't think you're as smart as a political commentator, you haven't watched this show
Always
enough,
drinking
and
a
that's
beer.
all we do. But do you guys have? We were just talking about Bill C-18. We're talking about Facebook paying for content. You're in the content game. And I want to get to that in just a second. But do you have the same division, the same hangups in England that we do politically? Like, are you, and we see a lot of British comedy when it comes to political shit and conservatives and Labour Party. And you guys have had like 43 prime ministers in the last month and a half. But like, do you guys have the same chaos politically? Do you have the same poor people running for politics? Do you have the same morons that we have over here? The conservatives on the right, and as they call them, the commies on the left, or is it a different system in England?
I know so little about most politics, but specifically about Canadian politics. I don't know quite how to answer the question, but I'll give it a good go because I'm confident. I think the division it's becoming more and more polarized and more entrenched, right? Like the way stuff is reported, the way the digital marketplace is like the stuff that gets clicks is stuff that's provocative and stuff that goes, I'll click on that because I agree with that, or I'll click on it because I don't. So I think so we have a bipartisan system, really. It's the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. I was always a Labour voter. I've always voted Labour, apart from 1 year where I voted for the Lib Dems, who it's an interesting one because I don't quite know where they lie. I think they were a bit more centrist, but now I feel like the Labour Party are basically under Keir Starmer, who is the current leader of the opposition. They're moving more and more to the centre to try and appeal to the people who are disenfranchised with the Conservative Party. And this comes after Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party, who is very much like the Bernie Sanders in the States of our situation.
Oh, the rich guy that was telling everybody they should be poor and like it. That's
No, I think I do think, and it's definitely a complicated. Yeah, and that kind of shit. Yeah, just like people being paid properly and stuff. The division of Labour, but that's sort of gone from the party a bit, and there's a lot of factionalism in Labour and in the Conservatives as well. And it feels like everyone's trying to like push to the centre as much as possible to try and just be like, oh, we've got to appeal to it's a very strange situation we're in, and it's a lot of it. I think a lot of our country, we scapegoat the US specifically as like they're all crazy over there. So I know more about US politics, but I think the same stuff exists here.
Yeah, it totally does. Locke, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that we're just to give you an idea. Thank you for that. That was an excellent description of where you stand politically in the UK. Will,
I feel like I spoke a lot and said very little, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no. But I think the way you presented it, I think, was an excellent way of us giving you a idea of how we're dealing with politics, or how politics is moving in Canada. See, we're the polar opposite. Both parties have said fuck the middle, and they're going right after the extreme ends on both sides. So there's no movement into the middle. So what you're going through is something I think a lot of people in this country would actually
prefer
I would say that. Sorry,
to.
I would caveat that with that. Sorry, Labour are moving from the centre left more to the middle, and the Conservatives are moving from the centre right to the right. That is also, everything is just shifting to the right.
Oh, they're chasing each other. Okay, yeah. No, see, we have a little more of this where the middle keeps growing and growing and growing, and politics keeps going. Fuck you, middle. Fuck you, middle. And then there's more and more people getting in the middle. And then politics, we have less and less choice because everyone's like, all the politicians are just like, it's crazy. It's insane. And it's even worse in the US for that right now.
Yeah, it's almost like they get rewarded, Will. Like here in North America, this is kind of what I was worried, because we see, the division and the frustration and all the stuff coming from England with Rishi Sunak, and then there was a girl that was there for like 5 minutes, and there was Boris Johnson.
Liz Truss.
Yeah,
she looked. Can I just point out something that I noticed about her? I know nothing about her, nothing, but she had a look of fear on her face from the moment she took the job. And I remember seeing one of her press conferences where she was like this. I was like, that's not going to last long. She looks terrified.
Yeah, I mean, she was, but the thing is, though, she was confidently wrong about so many things. Like she tanked the pound so hard, like, and it's now just hanging out, just like, yeah, man, I'm great. I'm gonna get paid loads for talking appearances. It's great, it's wild. But you're right, she did have that sort of like,
that look of complete. Why am I here?
Yeah,
what happened?
What just happened? How did I become the prime minister of a country? That was it.
1 minute I was putting a skirt on, and the next minute, what's this?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because I don't see, we're very insular here, right? Well, and obviously we drive a ton of comedy from how terrible politics is right now, which is something that you do. You do an incredible job of it. Is that a release for you, or is that, hey, listen, because like us, we're like, hey, I'm not going to compete in the anger arena with these guys. I'm not going to get on Twitter and start telling people how I feel. I'm not going to be here educating people. Is that what started you to get?
Listen to a fucking word he's saying. This is a relatively new thing for him.
Last couple months of stuff.
Yeah.
But is that, and you don't do that either, but you do content and comedy around it. Was that like a release for you, or you're like, hey, listen, I don't want to talk about the political bullshit because it just drives me crazy, or is that just part of who you are?
It's a good question, and it's something that I don't really know. I wish that politicians would, and I know it doesn't feel right for people in positions of power to be like, I don't know, but I wish that sometimes they'd be like, I don't know, I'll go and check, I'll speak to an expert, because I don't really know what I feel about satire, despite the fact it's like my bread and butter, right? Like I started it as a way of making comedy and making art, I suppose, if you could be generous enough to call it that. And the aim, really, if we're being completely honest about it, was to drive traffic to me and be like, look at me. And part of that is definitely talking about stuff that I feel strongly about, because it feels easier to make stuff about that rather than just being like, lemons are crazy. It feels easier to talk about stuff that I care about. I mean, lemons are crazy. Let's be honest. They're nuts. Big yellow limes. What's going on? But I think it came from a place of just being like, I want to make something, and also came from quite a calculated place of like, people talk about politics a lot online, specifically on Twitter. So you've got like a 48-hour news cycle of being able to have something that's shareable. And then I was like, oh, I'm quite good at this. And also, it does feel like I'm doing something self-indulgent, but it also has a point. Yeah. So that's sort of where I sit with it, I think.
How much is comedy and how much is like, hey, listen, I've got a kind of responsibility with this comedy a little bit? Because I get that from your stuff in a big way.
Interesting. I don't go into it. That's a good. How much do I feel? I don't feel a responsibility, but I feel like
Now it's a good time to have a swig of your beer again, Will.
Yeah, great.
Like
like a pensive look, like have a sip. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I really don't feel any responsibility. Chug the beer.
I did that as a bit, and now I'm just going to be burping. That's such a mistake. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
We want to see what you're all about. We're good Canadian men. We want to see.
I think to an extent, I do feel a responsibility as someone who is like a straight cis white dude who basically just hangs out and can do whatever the fuck he wants. Can I swear on the podcast?
100%.
Who cares?
No.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't give a shit. Who's going to stop me? I do feel an element of like, it's good to talk about stuff that like I'm in a position of ease. Like I can just be like, oh, this is funny. I think I sort of have two rules, I think. One of which is it always has to be funny. There have to be jokes in it. Mm-hmm. And the second one is I don't really like this is a friend of mine, Georgie, who came up with this rule, which was like, you can't make fun of someone for something they can't control. So like Liz Truss is an idiot. She's stupid. She had a look of fear on her face. She's not good at her job. But making fun of someone's appearance, I'm like, well, it's just, A, it's hack. And B, it feels like, it just feels lazy. And it's, you know? Yeah. I don't think I've answered any questions, but that chug of beer has really destroyed me. So,
no, well, you bring up a good point. Like if it's not something, yeah, totally. Just one second, just to add to what you're saying, Will, just to kind of, buttress what you said with like my understanding is that we can laugh, we can joke, we can talk about incompetence in politics, we can create comedy around anything, but you can't really create comedy around something that someone's going through that they can't control, whether it be the way they look, whether it be issues that they were born with, whether it be mental, physical, emotional illness, which is like it's juvie shit, right? Like that's what you're talking about. That's that responsibility.
Yeah, and it's lazy. Like I think that's it. And like with the Andrew Tate video, for example, that video annoyed me because it felt very macho and self-aggrandizing and silly. So I was like, that's silly, and someone should call it out for its silliness. And a lot of people did, but I was like, this is my way of calling out for being silly. But then to make fun of the weird kimono he's wearing, I think is funny. But to make fun of like someone's physical appearance, I'm just like, well, I mean, that's all obvious. Like I have a receding hairline. People make fun of that online when I do the Andrew Tate videos. And I'm like, yeah, good one. It's when people call me a low-life virgin, I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing, That's funny.
That's better. That's better.
Yeah.
You know what? I get the sense, and maybe you're putting up the appearance that what you do doesn't get to you, but you seem to have a healthy approach here, which is interesting because in the last couple of years, I have actually kind of unplugged a little bit from the engagement piece online, right? Because if you want something to be successful out there, you kind of, not only do you have to have a good stance and a funny take, you also have to engage with it, right? That's the piece that everyone doesn't realize. You know what? Hey, my tweet was really funny. Why is nobody getting involved with it? Well, because you're not involved with it. And if you just throw it out there and leave it, it's not going to do anything. Sometimes I'm still annoyed that I'm still faster than Lucic tweet never does anything. And that's a hockey reference. We don't need to explain it, Will, but I will continue to do it. But the other stuff that I don't get involved in, and Dean says he doesn't, but I think we'll probably get dragged back into it
a little bit. I like getting into a little bit online. I don't mind.
is that engagement piece, and I have seen the disintegration of people's mental health.
Yeah.
Yes, and so my number one thing with people is stop engaging with it. Like, don't go there.
Yeah.
And do you ever feel like it's impacting your mental health, or are you so good at separating that you're able to keep the engagement piece?
No, totally. Like anything you do online is like, especially when you do it under your own name, there is an element of vulnerability and an element of putting yourself out there and inviting criticism and stuff. And I think anyone who doesn't feel like, oh God, I hope people like what I did, I think they're either lying or something else is going on. I find it very difficult to separate myself from it. And I've got much better at it, right? The more you do it, the more you put something out there, the more you go like, right, I can separate and be like, it's all okay. But yeah, it definitely takes a toll on people. And social media inherently keeps us all at a loss. Like, it has to keep us in a state of deficit in terms of like dopamine and stuff. So it has to keep you coming back. So you get, and it sounds a bit weird, but like the first video I got 1 million views on, I was like celebrating. I was like, this is amazing. And the next video I uploaded, I was like, only 100,000 views. Who gives a shit? And you become desensitized to it. And it's a strange area to exist in. And I also think the other side of it, like when I make fun of someone like Andrew Tate, I did that video, which was making fun of, I think, something that was publicly quite funny already. But I never tagged him in any of my stuff. I never tag Liz Truss, Matt Hancock, anyone I make fun of. I never like directly contact them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's a bit needy in terms of the social media stuff, and also
like looking for approval. You mean
or looking for disapproval, right? Looking for the controversy. And I'm like, it's not for him; it's for other people. And I get a little bit like, I understand the impetus underneath those comments for people to tag him, but I'm like, you don't need to tag the person. Like, we're all talking about it, and it's funny, the more, because some of the videos I do are like the Andrew Tate one is a faked interview where I've downloaded the video and watched the video quite a few times.
Can we play it?
You can absolutely play it, yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead and finish that statement, and then we'll play it because it's brilliant. I've got it here. Go ahead.
Great. Sorry. But the more you look at someone's face and the more you listen to them, the more you remember that they're just a human being. And regardless of what abhorrent thing they're saying, I definitely, whenever I make these videos, I end up feeling a little bit like, oh God, I'm sorry, you know? So it's a weird, I don't think there's any like, even with Andrew Tate.
You are far nicer.
Yeah. I was just going to say, there's so many moments here where I want to jump in and go, you need to be more of a cock.
Nicer, weaker. It depends how you define it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I tag people to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I think, and I think that's a choice too. This is my way of approaching it, right?
Well, we welcome it. Like you talk about the stress that comes with it. I want to talk about the stress that came with this Andrew Tate video, because and you know, this is someone that does comedy around bad behavior, specifically in the incel community or in political circles where really activated, angry right-wing people will come after you and like look for your address and all that other stuff, right?
So it happens on the other side too, right? Like,
both sides. I think that is a good point to make, that like you can make comedy on both sides and people will try. And I've never had people try and track me down, but I've done jokes about Jordan Peterson, about Andrew Tate, and those are the only times that I've had people be mean.
Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
After Jordan. Yeah, I'm intimately familiar. He hates my guts, so we're going to talk about him next too.
Amazing.
This is the video you did. This is right after Andrew Tate got arrested for trying to clown Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg eventually clowned him, and it was about the pizza box. And Will put this thing together, and I watched this on blast. I retweeted it about 4 or 5 times. I think that's how you and I came to know each other a little bit.
Thanks.
Will, right?
I think that's how it got most of the views, Dean. So thank you.
I doubt it. Well, it wasn't for me, dude. It was really well done. But this is a fake interview that he did with Andrew Tate using Andrew Tate's video, where he got himself arrested and charged recently, which we'll get to that in just a second. Let's watch this together.
Okay, so we're rolling. How do you want to start?
Release some greenhouse gases.
Very cool. Maybe do a wink as well. Nice.
The mainstream press is commenting on the fact that...
maybe flashes a nip whilst you're talking.
I was informing Greta
Oh, that's lovely.
that my very extensive car collection run on dead dinosaurs
Should we be fact-checking any of this? Because that dinosaur thing isn't true. So you sound like an idiot a bit.
had an enormous emission
Pause for effect.
profile.
Lovely.
And she replied by telling me her own email address.
Ooh, Andy, I don't think it was actually her email address.
I have small dick energy. Why would that be your own email address?
I think she was exaggerating for comedic... Oh, God. How to explain comedy to an idiot. She was using the sort of form of an email address to indicate what she thought of you. I actually don't even think @getalife.com is a real domain. I'm just going to find out. You're not doing a, got ya by saying that's her email address. Because she's already said that's her email address.
I'm not actually mad at Greta.
You don't seem it either. This feels like a really mature response to a 19-year-old. Oh, the pizza's here. Oh, will we stop?
Please bring me pizza and make sure that these boxes are not recycled.
We do not need to do a second take of
The
this.
Global Matrix got this bot farm to like and retweet.
Because there is no way that people like Greta more than they like you. I mean, look at you. Look at us.
Greta,
Do an impression of it.
with a little hate-filled face,
That is brilliant.
sitting somewhere without the heating on, in the cold, a little hat, shivering,
Shivering.
views my tweets, which is going to make my Twitter account far more fun into eternity.
And that's a wrap. Great work, everybody. I'm going to send that across to you, Andy. What's your email address? Don't get jokes @imacunt.com. Great.
Look, if any budding comedians are here thinking, how do I make comedy? Just always drop a C-bomb at the end. If you can't think of a punchline, a C-bomb will help you out anytime.
That's good advice.
When you did that video, what was the impetus for it, and what was the reaction?
The weirdness of the video, like
Yeah.
it's real, like Bond villain shit. Like it's so silly,
Yeah.
and so much of it is so silly that, like, I think actually the thing that made me make the video was that was my sort of introduction to Andrew Tate. And the thing that made me make the video was when he gets given the pizza boxes by somebody. It feels very much like he didn't expect someone to come into the room with pizza boxes. And I feel like you can see in his eyes when he realizes how he can make it part of the video. And he's like, oh, give me those pizza boxes and do not recycle these. Like, you can see how happy he is with himself. And I was like, fundamentally, this guy's a fucking bad improviser. And I was like, that's his biggest crime, since he's been charged with bigger crimes, let's be honest. But I was like, that's so embarrassing. And his whole thing is like, I'm alpha, I'm sigma, I'm amazing. And I think it's silly. It's just silly. And it's like, embrace the silliness, man. If you were doing Hustlers University and you're doing Silliness University, I'd sign up.
You know what? We had a conversation this morning with my co-host. So I do this, Will, I do the show in the mornings. I've got two co-hosts, and one of them is
Andrew Tate.
No.
Oh, good.
One of them is I don't know how to, it just would take too much time to explain him, but every once in a while, we've kind of beaten this out of him over the years, because Grant and I hate one-liners. And Jimmy is always sort of sitting there waiting to get his one-liner in. And we were on our way to do a broadcast with a guy that we know is like waiting to get the one-liner in. And I said to Grant and Jimmy on the way up there, I was like, do you think people who do that, are they aware? Like, I asked Jimmy, I said, do you know you're doing it? And he goes, no, I never knew I was doing it. And I never knew how annoying it was until you guys started pointing it out, because we've literally beaten him out of it.
Yeah.
Like, we berated him for years now. I believe he has PTSD because of it. I have a whistle by the control board. When he does one, I pull it out and wah, wah. Like, we've just tried to shame him out of it.
Because he tries to Jimmy jokes into everything.
Yes. The thing about the one-liners, I'm trying to figure out for my own benefit why they bother me so much. But him saying to us today that he's unaware that he does it is, I think, Andrew Tate. I honestly don't think that a guy like that is self-aware to realize, I think he thought he was putting together a great video that people would love.
That he wouldn't
And I
get
think
arrested
that's-
for.
And I think that's why people like him are so easy to make fun of when a guy like Will sees the video and goes, oh my God, I know where I can go with this. And the fact that he is so completely unself-aware makes it beautiful. I don't think he knew he was being silly. I think he thought he was actually being funny.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's a lot of these people who are like right-wing grifters. I think they think they're very funny.
Yes.
And I think it's hilarious when they try. Like there's a guy in the UK called Lawrence Fox. I don't know if you're familiar at all with Lawrence.
No.
But he's very litigious, so we'll be careful. But his whole Twitter feed, he's a right-wing pundit who like was an actor and got a bit of online traction by being horrible to people, in my opinion, and ran to be London mayor and like burns pride flags for show sort of thing. And he's so obviously trying to be the center of attention, and his jokes aren't great. And I think that's the funniest part about a lot of these people. Like when they clearly are like, I just want to be funny, man. Like it's wild.
Well, and here's the question I would ask you as a comedian and someone who takes the piss out of guys like this. And this is my theory: is that I think I have a responsibility to help young men not be so angry. And when I see guys like that telling young men that the only way they can get what they want is to be angry and to hurt people, that's a real problem for me. Like a real problem for me.
Totally.
Because I am wired completely the other way, as is Lachlan. So that's our interest in basing assholes like that. But here's a question I would ask you: Is it a skit, or do you think it's real? Like, do you think Andrew Tate, and I have the answer to this, and I want your opinion. Do you think Andrew Tate is well aware, and guys like him that you and I make fun of, that the perception that they're trying to give out is indeed not the authentic individual who's got billions of dollars in the bank? Like, it's kind of like wrestling, like WWE, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's like that, or do you think that these guys are all very serious about how seriously they take themselves and the messaging that they would like other people to think is a successful way to be?
I think it sort of doesn't matter, because what they're peddling is snake oil, and it's dangerous snake oil that's making other people take snake oil. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And I think speculating on that is interesting and fun. But it's like, is it... Because fundamentally, I think they're pouring out badness into the world, and what they're doing is getting clicks for themselves and making money themselves. And I think they're using a lot of the times they're using this weird issue we all seem to have with masculinity that I too had, right? Like I grew up being like, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a boy?
Did you really?
Like,
you grew up questioning? Yeah.
I think it's impossible to grow up without that. If you identify as a man or like identify as a boy, like it's hard to grow up without being like, how do I fulfill that correctly?
How old are you, Will?
I'm 31.
Okay.
And I think I think these people like Andrew Tate, I think they all start. It's like Jordan Peterson, right? He started from a place, it seems, of self-help and doing stuff that a lot of young, lonely men really, really gravitated towards. And then he starts to descend into this like chaotic inferno of hatred. And I don't know where that's a conscious choice and where that's just a like, oh, this is how I make money. I really don't know how to answer the question.
Yeah, I think you kind of answered it, and I think we all sort of kind of know the answer to that. And I know the same, bot farm. When you mentioned Andrew Tate and there mentioned a bot farm, I know the same people.
Yeah.
I know these organizations, and I know how much he pays them. I know how much Joe Rogan pays them. And I know that their marketing people are well aware that the only thing that matters is getting as many people to watch a very well-edited video that presents them as the answer to every young man's anger. right?
Yeah.
That is a fact. And Jordan Peterson one of those guys as well. And an absolute cretin, right? Like, and I, when we see what feeds into that, and we see how guys are told by people like Andrew Tate or guys like Jordan Peterson, who they get a big following, and they start out probably down the right road, and then for some reason they took a right turn. And I think the right turn has something to do with hard right turn, something to do with opportunity. That's why, and when we talk to the people that do their marketing, they all say the same things. Yeah, none of this is real. Like, I know one person that knows Andrew Tate. He's like, he's not a terrible person, and he absolutely knows what this is. And then I talked to them yesterday, because I don't know if you saw this. Andrew Tate got physically charged with human trafficking and rape. Did you see that?
Yeah.
What'd you make of that?
I mean, yeah, makes sense. Like, I don't know. That's such an interesting. So someone who works with these people. That's
yeah.
Because I think that's almost scary. Sorry, Lachlan, you had a point.
Well, no, I mean, I honestly think that first off, the one problem I have about anybody's opinion about anybody is that I've been so bit by that over the years that that I'm very cynical when it comes to asking anybody's opinion. And the reason being is, and this is why references don't work. The reason is I think people want to be liked, and I think if they tell other people that they like another person, even if that person might not be likable, that they're somehow going to be more liked for giving a good reference, right? So I've always been sorry to pull the cynicism card on that statement, Dean, but anytime anybody goes, yeah, no, that guy's a good person, I'm going, bullshit. Because
I would say he wasn't because of what he got charged with, and I'd say he wasn't because, and keep in mind, the person that said he's actually not a bad person was someone who just takes his money. So of course he's going to say that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So, but here's my thought on a lot of these types of individuals, right, that are projecting something that they end up getting a following for, like the Jordan Petersons and the Andrew Tates and things like that. I actually think that they believe they are doing something positive for the world. I actually think they're that crazy and that insane that they believe their own shtick, and that their way is the right way, and they've thought it through. And if you just follow me, and not only that, the people that don't believe me, they've only heard snippets of my story. They haven't heard the whole story. And if they just gave me more time on the mic, right? That's why I love you, Joe Rogan, because you give me 3 hours to tell my story. No one else does. And I'm just misunderstood. I believe those people actually think that they're right and everybody else is wrong. I mean, there is so much narcissism in the world that we live in right now. It's been fueled by social media. And again, I'm hypersensitive to it because I'm also that guy. I legitimately thought that I was put on this planet to tell everybody the truth. And it took a long time for me to realize that no one gives a flying fuck about my version of the truth. Nobody. It took a long time, and I'm still get lessons on a daily basis that no one cares what I think. So I think Andrew Tate
believes the shit.
The way he lives his life is something to be revered, followed, and encouraged on other people.
Fake. It's all fake.
I don't know. I think when they start to make a little bit of money, then they're even more encouraged.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to because you have to sort of with the way social media is now. We're talking about Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate. They both have to. Their personalities are what's for sale, and I think you're right in that. Like, what I would caveat is I don't know when it changes. I don't know if it's always been that narcissism. I think for Tate it may have been, but I think for Peterson it may have been a more calculated, like, and it's basically radicalization. I think
yes,
is that it like whether you start believing everyone needs to hear my shit all the time. And I think it's interesting that, like, speaking as a as a left-wing comedian, I think I oscillate between being like, listen to me, and also like, I know nothing. And I think that there probably is a point where that shifts, if it hasn't shifted already. And Tim Minchin, actually, the comedian who wrote the music to Matilda and the Groundhog Day musical, who's unbelievable, he wrote an article about this a couple of years ago about fame, and you know, apolitically, just about fame, of like, if you are hanging out in a world where everyone's telling you you're great all the time, you will just start to believe it.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, the more people, like Andrew Tate has, what, hundreds of thousands of followers, maybe 1 million, I don't know. Yeah. Like Jordan Peterson as well. The more you get people saying you're doing the right thing, the more you sort of start to believe it. And I definitely exist in a world where I hear the negative comments more than the positive ones. So I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right, Lachlan, is that they have to believe it to some extent.
Yeah.
I don't think you can fake that. I think you can fake some of it for sure. I think you can start it as just a way of making money. But I think it becomes true for you, or it starts as true for you. I don't know where it starts and stops, but I think you have to.
Can I use the Bieber analogy?
I thought you'd never ask, to be honest. I'm waiting for you to Bieber analogize.
We've been having this conversation for years on my show about whether or not Bieber was a dick. Like when he became a dick. And everyone goes, you know, somebody gave me all that money, I probably would have been a dick too. And I'm like, no. I think he was a dick all the time. And then when he got the money, he just went, I can show my dick. And he just became the dick he always was. And again, I know Dean needs to believe that it's a facade. It's not all real. That makes him go to bed at night better.
No,
right?
No, it's because I talk to the people that Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan pay. I know who they are. That's why I know.
Here's the thing about Joe Rogan. Let's bring this up. Okay. A lot of his friends, after the whole ivermectin thing and all the stuff that came out during COVID, a lot of his buddies had very similar comments. Like they were surprised that everyone was reacting the way they were to Joe Rogan, because they were like, he's always been like this. Mm-hmm. They were saying it. His comic friends were like, no, he's always been this guy. Yeah. He's always been the guy looking for alternative forms of medicine. He's always the guy that's been berating us on what we eat and our lack of exercise and there's a better way and take this pill, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it was shocking to them that the world came after him when he came out and showed his true colors, right? And
here's a question I would ask then, Will, if because I would agree with Lachlan in terms of, you know, that a dick is a dick. You give a dick a money, they'll just be a super dick. Like it's kind of the deal. You can hide the dick for a little bit, but if you give a dick some money, they're just going to be an unfettered ass. Like that's kind of how I think. But when
it's like a quote from Team America. I really love that.
You could use it anytime. It's
totally
great. Yours. But when you look at guys that are doing that kind of content, and you know how hard you work for content, right? Like you put together skits, bits, like it's what you do. And I know it's a lot of work, and you've got like 45,000 people on Twitter, and you look at a guy, and I've got like, you know, we have about 1 million collectively. I personally have about 88,000. And it's not about followers, but it's also like sometimes you scratch your head and you're like, man, I'm putting good shit into the world. Like I'm putting great, honest content in the world. And that guy gets 1,000 new followers a day, and I'm stuck at this amount. Do you comparative shop that stuff, and do you kind of look at it and go, well, either they've got an unfair advantage, or maybe that kind of content is what I should be doing?
No, I yeah, I think I should sideline into supplements and be like a self-help guy for men. Yeah, I absolutely should. I should be the new alpha male, because I do think there is like I wish there were more like ways of bringing young men who struggle with masculinity problems into like more progressive politics. But I think it's just fucking easy. Like it's so easy to go online and do something controversial and get loads of followers. Like you could do it tomorrow. Like it's so easy. It's kind of boring. So it's like, yeah, I could do that, but it wouldn't be sort of honest, or it wouldn't be sort of like, I wouldn't value it. But I think you could do an experiment of just pretending to be like a self-help guru, right-wing productivity person. It'd be easy. Like I say that with pure arrogance. But
I agree with you, Will. I
just
agree
grift,
with you,
man. It's grift.
And sometimes when you touch on something that is that's an issue with the public as a whole, right? Which is what they have done, and that's why they dig in on that side, right?
Yeah.
But it always has been. It's been a thing forever. There's
Yeah,
always been a question
forever,
about
but it's like
my
there was a
position
time
in life and
Yeah.
you know, and how I'm viewed and you know. As
Do you
a
guys
man,
have
right?
incel issues in England too? Like, is Jordan Peterson a big deal over there? Do you have like the angry young man white man syndrome in England,
Oh,
like
yeah.
we do over here? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. It's just slightly everything we do in the UK, like we think we're really polite. Like, we apologize for everything apart from our colonial past. It's amazing. But there's a lot of like teachers who talk about in schools. There's lots more Andrew Tate rhetoric and people talking about stuff. And I think there's a lack of education about like trying to deal with that and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, we definitely have those issues. And it's a complicated area, because it's like so many of the people in power in the UK are from the same demographic, went to the same school, and they're not like alpha males, but there's definitely an association, I think, with male power and wealth, right? And like they come from wealth and power, but that's not. There's different Venn diagrams of it, but yeah, it's definitely an issue in the UK. I think just because, I mean, Andrew Tate is half British, right? Like he was on
British, half
Celebrity
American.
Big Brother in the UK.
Yeah.
So he's partially a product of our country as well, you know. Like,
I think the bigger issue, and I've said this before, and everybody thinks I'm defending Jordan Peterson. The concern I have is that he's actually got some points from the starting point of men questioning their position in the world that we live in now, and it's a fair, and it's interesting to hear you say, Will, that you wish that there would be someone that would approach the mental health of men and boys and their struggles with their, you know, how they make their way through the world from a progressive politics point of view. And the problem is there isn't. So who do they go to? They go to the guy that has a book about the rules to live their life, because men don't have structure in their lives anymore.
And also those rules feel easy, right? Those rules feel like, I remember someone recommending me that book like 8 years ago and being like, oh, it's like make your bed, say hi to a cat. I'm like, great stuff. And then you're like, this guy has stuff to say. And then you're like, wait, women are terrible? Who knew?
Well, and that's just it, right? And that's the scary thing about it. And so when we've sort of gone after him on this podcast, I'm always a little bit leery, because I'm not sure that's the best approach. Because if you're going to, if you got a guy in your, you know, somebody in your circle, a young man who's struggling right now and is searching for something, some sort of an identity or some structure in their lives, and they gravitate towards Jordan Peterson, telling him he's a fucking idiot, and it might not be the best approach to having a conversation you need to have with that kid to get him on the right path.
Well, I think any sort of disagreement politically or morally or anything, I think that approach kills conversation and entrenches people. My partner often talks about this, of the pyramid. Like, you both have these points at the top, and then you start arguing the other two, and then you end up from this point of like, I think this, and then you end up like here, because you've just argued your way down. And like, we had this with the Brexit vote in the UK. Like, it was a very divisive thing. And I remember trying to have a conversation with someone who was the first person I'd met who was voting to leave the European Union. And the people I were with just shot this person down and were like, you're racist, you're wrong, you're shit. And I was like, well, this is the problem of like, we're not sort of, it's very, very complicated. But I think with all the Jordan Peterson stuff, and like, you're right, the people that I know who've gravitated towards him have been lonely men who are trying to find their place in the world.
Yes.
All right, here's a question I would ask you. Do you find those men as dumb as I find those men?
So now we're proving your point, Will.
I'm just asking a question.
No, I think Jordan Peterson is dumber and smarter than all of them. I don't know. I don't think so, because like it depends where you're at contextually. Like if you're depressed and sad and struggling, and someone says, "This is simple. This is what being a man is. Remember that? Remember what your dad taught you? This is what being a man is. This is how you find your way out of it." I can understand how, like, if I was in a certain situation, I would find that helpful.
Mhm.
And I feel quite privileged that my mental health is quite robust, and I've had very sensitive men in my life who've been able to be like, you know, here's what emotional maturity looks like. Here's what being a man really is, which is being sensitive and loving. But I don't, to be honest, I don't look at people who look to people like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson as stupid. I look to them as people who've been radicalized. I think very smart people can be radicalized very easily, unfortunately.
See, I would I would
Will,
disagree.
I love you. We should have him back every week.
Well, let's go through the 12 rules. Okay, real quick. We'll go through into one, then we'll let you go because you probably have 3 more beers to drink.
This is the last one.
Okay, well that's a shame. This is why I think every Jordan Peterson fan's an idiot. Okay, the 12 rules for life. You just brought them up. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Oh fuck, you kidding me? Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. I guess.
So far, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, Dean,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
your bit about each of these has just been to dismiss them. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Posture's great. It's very important. We spend all of our time at our desks. I can't believe I'm sort of defending JP at the moment. I don't like
This is what happens to me, Will. This is exactly what he does to me.
Then
and
you
then I
guys can get
attacked.
after me. Then you guys can get after me. It's 2 for 1, and I blocked your face with this picture of the 12 rules.
Do you know what? Do you know what, Dean? Climate's not real. Actually, climate doesn't exist.
Okay, befriend people who want the best for you. I guess compare yourself with who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Not comparative living. Sure. Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Let's stop there for a second. Apparently, unconditional love is not in Jordan Peterson's wheelhouse.
Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
He's got a real problem when boys play with dolls and stuff like that. That's what that is.
Yeah. I look. 1 to 4, that's all just shit. But that's all basic shit, man. It's all
Very
obvious.
Yeah.
Have good posture. Be nice. Have friends. Like, it's so obvious. Like, it's. I understand what you're saying. Is that it's stupidly obvious.
Yeah.
But like,
the one that kills me is number 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Now,
perfect order. If you've got a poorly painted wall, you cannot call out anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and he's a gong show. Jordan Peterson's a gong show.
Number 7. Oh, a personal gong show. The guy just got out of a Russian rehab for a benzo addiction. So let's start there about his house. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. I guess tell the truth, or at least don't lie. I'm pretty sure that's one of
tell the truth, or at least don't lie. It feels like he wrote "Tell the Truth," and his editor was like, "Jordan, are you going to commit to this?" And he was like, "Fair point. Let's add in a caveat so I can say whatever the fuck I want."
I need a
forever.
back door on this one.
Yeah.
I need a back door. Number 9, assume that the person you're listening to might know something you don't.
I mean, doesn't he put that in every single one of his YouTube videos at the bottom?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
the only way he gets people to believe him, I think. Be precise in your speech.
What an
I don't
idiot.
know if that's a rule for life. Do not bother
climate
children.
isn't real. Yep.
Do not bother children when they are skateboarding.
He is 100% the parent on the street who is trying to stop any sort of recreational activity happening on the street.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's the guy when ball hockey breaks out, goes out there and he's like, I'm reading. Like, he's that guy. And the last one, which you brought up, which is, let's be serious. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. That is a 12th rule for life.
Well, yeah. Look, like,
he needed a 12.
I don't disagree that Jordan Peterson is an idiot. But what I take slight issue with painting all of the people who go to him for help with the same brush, because I think that breaks down barriers slightly. And it's more fun to be like, "Yeah, fucking morons." But I have people in my life who have gone to him, and it's all men. I say people, it's all fucking men.
Yeah. I do
It's all
too.
toxic men. But
Yeah,
like,
but you're smart enough. You're smart enough to, and this is where it breaks down, right? I think people that read that go, "That's fucking insanity." Like the first 4 are very basic tenets to existing every day, and the last like 8 were just pure insanity. But
nah,
like,
I'd say like a third, maybe more than that were insane. But like, I can also understand how you'd read something and be like, yeah, I get it. But like, what's this about? Okay. And also with self-help stuff, you pick and choose what you want and you take what you need from it. And what you need from that is stand up straight. You're gonna be okay. Pet a cat. Be in the moment. And if you go like, actually, I feel better after I read that book. And maybe it's because you just fucking sat down and read a book and gave yourself some time for yourself and you were breathing differently.
Well put.
Like, whatever it is. And I think Jordan Peterson is a bad person. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I think I can see how I would have ended up thinking he was good, you know?
what do you say to Jordan Peterson fans, or when people stop you and they're like, "Oh, you're the comedian, you're the guy," like, and they're like, what do you say to Jordan Peterson fans that hit you up on Twitter, or even your friends? That's a better question. Like, because to me, I have Jordan Peterson fans not in my family, well, kind of in my family circle, and I had Jordan Peterson fans in my friend circle, but I was like, I've been through this hardcore sluicing factor in my life now, where it's like, if you like Jordan Peterson, I probably didn't realize you're as dumb as you are. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, I think also like my journey with it was I was recommended that book when I was younger, heard about it, did some research on him, and was like, oh, he's an idiot. This is bad stuff. Like, and I do think that is a journey everybody can go on, and I think it's stupid not to. I see what you're saying there, but I think I find the actual debate about Jordan Peterson slightly reductive, and we've already decided our positions on it, right? But and this, I'm speaking very specifically about a friend of mine, where actually all you can sort of do is talk to them in a different way about different things and be sensitive and open and ask about their mental health and talk about them and not do it from his perspective and talk about other stuff that you consume. And I think that the actual engagement on discussing that, it just becomes so polarized, right? Even now, we're like, I think this, I think that. I think actually trying to get to the underlying issue of like, I think you might be depressed. And I think you might be struggling with masculinity. Let's talk about it. Is maybe a better way in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I have a very similar...
Probably, but it's more fun to do it my way.
Way more fun. Way more fun. Oh, lobsters. Fuck off with your fucking lobsters, you know? It's so much more fun.
Yeah. I appreciate your perspective on that, Will. I really do. I want to say that out loud. I do. I think we need a lot more of that. And we've actually talked about that on this show. Dean is struggling with it, about being more accepting of other people's ideas.
And look, I should be, but I've already done all the research on other people's ideas and they suck.
Well, and you know what? I'll point out the hypocrisy coming from my side. Like if somebody came to me, like if a buddy came to me and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, Locke," and I invited him in and we sat down and we were having a beverage together, and he said something about exploring the idea of Jesus being his savior, I'd go, get out. Go, never come back until you pull your head out of your ass. So I realize that.
But that's cool, you know, too, what I mean? Man. Jesus is an alpha male. He's stacked. Look at his abs. He's doing great. Look at him.
That was dehydration, I think.
Of course. The first day of the crucifixion, he was looking flabby, but day three,
he looked delicious.
Yeah.
The Christ looked delicious.
I shouldn't be that way, but I have such a hard time justifying religion on any level that I don't think I would be able to have a reasonable conversation. I shouldn't say that. Maybe I would be able to. Maybe I'm maturing enough.
It's the same thing though, right? Like the same thing we're just talking about of it's looking for meaning and looking for
something. You're looking for
something. Yeah, some sort of guidance.
Yeah,
and maybe that's blasphemous to say that Jordan Peterson and Jesus, look, they start with the same letter, guys. Prove me wrong. But people are just trying to find like meaning and trying to find a way of sort of navigating through shit. And if they're down and they find help somewhere, I think it's really hard to dismiss it as stupid based, because it's all context based, isn't it? And like I think Jordan Peterson is damaging and dangerous and problematic and wrong. Like,
I agree with you.
But I also think that I can understand how people get there. And it's also easy for me to sit here and be like, this is the way you should talk about people. Like, you should just be like, how you feeling? Like, it's hard. So, like, I've had easier situations with people I have an emotional relationship with where I can be like, hey, man, like, let's talk about this. But it's hard. It's fucking hard.
It is. It is.
It's hard because you kind of want to reward some of the people, you know, in your life that maybe chase down answers that may be the wrong answers, like Jordan Peterson's 12 answers to life or 12 reasons to live, whatever you want to call them. Because
I can't believe how bad they are. Sorry, I'd only had them told to me, and I was like, yeah, petting cats, that's fine. And then you read them out, I was like, oh, they are pretty dumb. They're so dumb. Like, we could all write that book.
Yeah. Well, we do. Yeah, no, absolutely we could. But my I guess that's my point is, I guess people get credit for looking for those answers because it's difficult to admit as a man, right, that you're concerned, confused, you're sad, you're scared, you're not sure, depending on where you came from. And so to say, hey, I bought a self-help book, it denotes that you went looking for some answers, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I wonder how much of it, like, how much of the radicalization thing is that you don't talk about stuff before you get so deep into it, because we're so insular as men of being like, I'll just solve this problem on my own, that it's like, actually, you talk to people about stuff, people challenge you on your views, and maybe it changes your way of doing things. But it's like, there's such a stigma of being like, I'm looking for self-help, that maybe that's part of the reason people go so far down. And once you're so far down, it's hard to get out.
Yeah, I guess so. And then you find something simple. It's like, all I got to do is pet a cat. Fuck, that's awesome.
I'm just going to go find some cats.
Will, listen, you spent a large portion of your time with us, about 60 minutes now. I want to thank you for it. Love your content.
Thanks for having me.
Will Sebag, am I saying your last name right? Sebag-Montefiore?
Well, I don't think I can say no because my granddad was Canadian. So,
come on.
Yeah.
Where's he from?
He's from Montreal. My dad was born in Montreal. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And how did you end up in England? By the way, I was born there as well, so we're crossing swords here.
So the Sebag-Montefiore is a big old Jewish family who, like, I think left Europe probably about the time you expect a Jewish family to leave Europe.
Yeah.
And
there's some benchmark dates.
Yeah, you can look it up, I think. My granddad was from Montreal, and then he married an English woman, moved over to England, and then my dad was born in England. But no, my dad was born in Montreal, but they moved over to England when he was like 14, 15. And so I'm from Leeds in the north of England. But yeah, I have Canadian roots and Canadian ancestry. So
have you been back here?
Yeah, I went back in 2010 to visit my Aunt Daphne, who was like, I think she passed away when she was like 100, but we went to visit her like when we were like, right, this is the last time we'll see her. And then 10 years later, she then passed away. But yeah, it was very snowy. My Aunt Nancy, my great Aunt Nancy, had one of the first heated driveways in Montreal.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. She had like a heated driveway. Yeah. And I don't know if this is a fact, but I think one of my grandparents had, in the town they lived in, their telephone number was 6 because it was early. Yeah. It was just 6.
Back in the party line days.
Yeah.
That was back when you, like, an entire block would use one phone line, and it would ring like 2 or 3 times, and you go, okay, if it rang 2 times, it's us. If it rings 3 times, it's neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We had that back in the day. Well, it's fascinating. So you're from Canada. We want to have you back at another time.
That was my way of teasing myself to get another appearance of the pod. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Oh, dude, really appreciate your comedy. Will Sebag-Montefiore. Please go and follow him at WSEBag. Yeah, dude. He's one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. He's got a heart. And he's a great follow for guys who want to have a sense of humor and also don't mind taking the piss out of really tough things. And you do a great job and you get great blowback. So Always love talking to people like you that do content fearlessly. You do a great job, Will. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me, Dean. It's a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
We'll talk to you
Nice to
soon.
meet you. Nice to meet you, Will.
Yeah,
See you soon.
nice guy.
Do I?
That's how. Oh,
Button.
what? Sorry, did I miss you there, Will? So what did you say? Did
I
miss you?
said, do I hit the leave button? As I think you got rid of me, so I messed up the really seamless transition.
I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. Will Sebag-Montefiore. There's a guy who's smart, right? There's a guy
Holy
that young
shit, I
men
like him.
should follow. He's a happy guy. He likes to talk about things that are important. And you know what? He's got such a great assessment of it. And I find guys that are able to do comedy around this hard kind of shit to be really bright individuals. So give him a follow at WSEBag on Twitter. There you go.
That's a good point. The one thing that I appreciated about his perspective was that he is he's gotten into it, and it looks like he's kept his mental health intact, because that's not an easy thing to do when you're batting around in that arena, right? And the other thing was that structure that he has presented for himself, those rules that he lives by, has given him some boundaries on how to move forward, which I think is interesting, and I think should be something that a lot of people adopt. Right? I started thinking about it immediately, like, and because he has got a very clear idea of how he is approaching his content, and he lives in that space, and he doesn't deviate from it by the sounds of it, right?
Yeah, he's got a plan. Like he knows what he's doing, he knows what he wants to do, and he stays away from personal attacks, and he goes after the ridiculousness of the content. But it costs. I mean, there's a tax there, right? Like you and I both know that from the content that we've done for the past couple of years, is that there is a heavy tax to pay when you push back with content, right? It doesn't matter what it is. If you're doing comedy, if you're doing joke, like, you know, we've got a couple of people at Crier Media. Jason Pugh's done a great job of following some politics down the road and talking about Pierre Poilievre. I don't care to talk about any of that stuff. But it's amazing the hate that I've seen, because he's gay, the anti-LGBTQ stuff that I've seen, and the guy just continues to pound content out. He's like, I'm fearlessly going to do this. I'm going to make sure this happens, because it does come with a tax, and that tax is a personal attack, and it happens a lot, right? And it doesn't stop. And I think that's the interesting thing about this whole exercise. We're talking to guys that do content in the online space, is that you can't worry about what comes back. Like, and that's the whole goal of doing content online, is worrying about what comes back,
Dean,
right? Getting clicks.
Dean, you can say it out loud all you want, but you have to be honest with yourself about the impact it's having, right? And I think that's how you separate the ones that are successful at it and the ones that are not. Because you legitimately have to not care about what comes back at you if you have a plan in place and you're going to move forward with a certain position, right? Whether it's comedic or not, right? Because and I've said this to people getting into radio, if you have a thin skin, you're done for. Like, find something. Do you have another passion? Maybe look into that one, because this one might not be a good path for you. Right? Because it's not easy to put yourself out there.
No, it's not, and it gets increasingly more frustrating, you know, for a lot of people that do content, and it can scare people off, right? And you come down to this one thing when you're doing content, or you're tweeting, or you're putting something out, or you're deciding that you're going to share an opinion with somebody, is that you have to, and I do this a lot. Like, I'll put something out there, I won't even look at my phone anymore. Boom, it's out, don't care, not going to interact. And I'll interact intermittently, but it comes with a very heavy mental cost when you're doing content, right? It just doesn't stop.
It does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know that. I know that. We do it all day. You do it in the morning on a radio station, 957 The Rock, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton. And at cruisefm.ca is where you can go, 957cruisefm.ca. Listen every single weekday morning. So you do that in the morning where you get feedback and it's all negative, and then you do it in the afternoon with us. You get feedback.
No, it's not all negative.
So I don't know how you do it.
I get a lot of really positive feedback, but every once in a while you'll hit something that will strike a chord, and they come at you, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's not easy. It can be tricky. And anyway.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I'm done. You good? I'm finished.
We're good. Yeah.
All done. All finished. That's it for me. Lachlan Cross, you can follow him at 957cruisefm.ca. That's where you can listen to him every weekday morning.
Follow
him
me on
online
Twitter.
Hey, is your wife home yet?
No, tomorrow.
You all right? What'd you eat for dinner last night?
Jimmy and I made a meal.
Oh.
Like I had Jimmy over because we had to leave early this morning. We had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We had to drive like an hour out of town for this live broadcast, blah, blah, blah. So, and Jimmy's actually a half decent little cook. So we cooked some chicken.
I know what you did. You tagged him to make you a meal, didn't you?
No, we worked together. I swear to God. And there was no violence, which is rare for us. We don't work well together.
All right. Well, I'm happy that your wife will be home tomorrow. Good to see you. And I'll talk to you soon.
She already ordered the Luber. So.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah. Okay. She booked it earlier today. Yeah.
Lachlan's Uber. You're going to go pick her up? Okay.
Yeah. I told her there'd be a cost. She gets it.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Talk to you soon. Lachlan Cross, 957cruisefm.ca. That's it for us. Have a great day, everybody. Really appreciate you being here. As always, brought to you by our friends at Cantork, Canada's assembly tool experts. Cantork makes rugged, hardworking, beautiful torque wrenches. Canada's leading industrial tool experts, giving you the very best sales, service, rental, calibration, maintenance, custom fabrication of industrial torque tools. No matter the scale of your bolting project, Cantork has your solutions. Go to cantork.com for more information today. Also, kivlaw.ca, St. Catharines Criminal Defense Attorneys. The best in Southern Ontario will help you get your life back. He knows you need Robert, the principal, Rob Kivlikin, knows that you need honest answers about the situation that you're in from experienced defense lawyers that know what they're doing and understand how to fight for you. So get in touch with them today if you're in Southern Ontario and you've done something you shouldn't have done or you've been accused of something you didn't do. You need to speak to a lawyer, kivlaw.ca, or email Robert yourself, kivlaw.ca. And, of course, we're brought to you by Gitch. Luxury branded boxer briefs made in Canada for Canadians, engineered for any level of performance. Very soft, very breathable. These are the best underwear on the planet. Pouch in the front, multiple colors. Go to edsfineimports.com and make sure you buy your Gitch from him. If you buy 3, you'll get 1 free when you use promo code Gitch3. That's how easy it is to buy Gitch from edsfineimports.com. Thanks to Will for being here. Thanks to Lachlan for being here. And thanks to you for being here. We'll try and cobble a few more of these together before we relaunch later in the summer as part of another relaunch with Crier.co. Everything we do, you can find at Crier.co, courtesy of our friends over at Crier Media. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and a great weekend. Try to be nice to each other. If you can't, stay inside. Don't go out. Bury your negative self in your basement. Watch some Netflix. Eat some stuff. Don't interact with people if you're going to be a dick. Have a great weekend. Bye.